This is lesson 1.3. We will be adding rational numbers. And remember that rational numbers are all the integers, positive and negative whole numbers, and zero. And it also includes all the fractions. This is very similar to adding integers, and so we're going to follow the same rules. Here's one example, 3/5 plus a negative 1/5. So I'm going to do 3/5 plus, I'm going to put in parentheses because it's a negative 1/5. And if you remember with integers, you find the absolute value of both numbers, and then you take the smaller number away from the bigger number, and then whatever, which one has the bigger value as absolute value, that's the sign you go with. So I'm going to start with the absolute value of 3/5, and the absolute value of negative 1/5 is 1/5. And I know that 3/5 is bigger than 1/5, so I'm going to take away that 1/5. That leaves me with 2/5. And that is the number I need, or the fraction I need. Now I just have to decide, is it negative or is it positive? So I look at this right here and this right here. Which one's bigger? The 3/5 is bigger, so I come up here, and this is a positive, so this is a positive. So my answer is just 2/5. You can look at this example. It says find negative 8/3 plus 5/6. Now, you can look through that, and that can help you. But instead, I'm not going to go through it. What I want to do is I want to do these triads. And these will be the examples. So there's 3 of them. I'm going to start with the first triad. I'll rewrite that. Negative 1/2 plus negative 3/2. All right, so there's a couple things good in this one. They are both negatives. Because they're the same sign, I know that I'm going to have a negative answer. So now what I do is I just add the absolute value of them. And the absolute value of negative 1/2 is 1/2, and the absolute value of negative 3/2 is 3/2. Now, you of course remember that when you add fractions, the denominator has to be the same. And in this case, it is, both 2. So then you just add across. 1 plus 3 is 4, and then the 2 just goes there. So I bring it back up here, 4/2. So my answer is a negative 4/2. But I can simplify that. It is an improper fraction. So I say, how many times does 2 go into 4? 2 times. So my answer is negative 2. All right, let's look at the second problem. We'll do this one in red. Negative 1 3/8 plus 3/4. Okay, there's a couple things here. We have a negative and a positive. So what we have to do is I want to get them with the same denominator and both being fractions, not mixed numbers. So on this one, 8 times 1 is 8 plus 3 is 11. 11/8 plus 3/4. And now I want to get the denominators the same. Well, 8 can be the same denominator, so negative 11/8 plus, I'll make that 4 into an 8, that's times 2, so this is going to be 6. All right, so now I have to, because they're different signs, I'm going to get the absolute value, and the absolute value of this one is 11/8, and this one is 6/8. Then I've got to decide which one's bigger, and I know that 11/8 is bigger than 6/8, So I'm going to take the 6/8 away from it. And I go 11 minus 6 is 5. And I bring over the 8. So it's 5/8. And now I have to decide which one of these is bigger. The 11/8 is bigger. And so I'm going to go with this sign right here. My answer is a negative 5/8. Okay. Let's do one more. This one I'll do in green. And let's see. I'll do it right here. It's going to be 4 plus 7 halves. And that's a negative 7 halves. Okay. First, I want to get it into a fraction form. So 4 over 1 plus negative 7 halves. Now I got to get the denominators to be the same. I'm going to change this 4 over 1 so that the bottom is 2. It's going to be 8 over 2 plus a negative 7 over 2. Get the absolute value of each one. 8 halves, 7 halves, and then I'm going to subtract the smaller one. So I take 8 halves and I take away 7 halves. It leaves me with 1 half. Now I got my number, I just need to figure out what my sign is. So this one right here is bigger. So I go with the sign of what 8 halves is. And it is a positive number. So it's a positive 1 half. 4 plus negative 7 halves equals 1 half. Okay. All right, here's another example of adding rational numbers. And this time they have a decimal, a negative decimal added to a negative decimal. And you can look through that. And they even use a number line. I'm not going to use a number line here. So I'm going to do the try-its, and this will be 3 more examples for you on how you will add rational numbers. And these are all have decimals to them. So let me shrink that a little bit. We'll start with red. So a negative 3.3 plus a negative 2.7. Okay, so those are both negatives. And when it's both negatives, you know the end result is going to be a negative. And then you just you add the absolute values. So the absolute value of negative 3.3 is 3. The absolute value of negative 2.7 is 2.7. And we just add those up. And it gets me 6, a 6.0. So I put that over here. And because each sign was negative, it's going to be a negative. And my answer is negative 6. Number 5. Negative 5.35 plus 4. Now, we have a negative and a positive. This is a negative, that's a positive. So, what we want to do is we want to find the absolute value. Negative 5.35 is 5.35. And the absolute value of 4 is 4. Then you take the smaller one from the bigger one. So it'll be just like this. I'm going to do 5.35 minus 4.00. That gets me 5, 3. Bring the decimal down, and 1. So it's going to be 1.35. Now I have to decide, is this a positive or a negative? So I look at my absolute values, 5.35 and 4. And which one is bigger? Well, the 5.35 is bigger. So then I go up here, and it started as a negative. So now it's going to be a negative. That's the sign that wins. All right, one more. It is 1.65, that's a positive, plus a negative 0.9. Okay, so they're both, they're different ones. One's positive, one's negative. So I find the absolute value, 1.65, and the absolute value of 0.9. Then I have to decide which one is bigger and smaller. This 0.9 is smaller, so I'm going to take it away from that. And the way I do that is I go like this. 1.65, subtract 0.9. I have to add my decimal points up, or line them up, I mean. 5 minus 0 is 5. Then I borrow from there, bring that over, and that is 7. And then I bring my decimal down. So 0.75. So 0.75. But because they're different, I have to decide, is it negative or is it positive? Well, the absolute value of this one is 1.65. The absolute value of this one is 0.9. So this one is the bigger one, and it is a positive. So then I go with my answer of 0.75. Okay, we're to the self-assessment, and it's on page 19. There's problems 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. All I want to do is I want to do problems 8, 9, and 10. So pause the video, do those 3 problems, come back, and you'll see how you did. Okay? All right, I'm just going to give you the answers for these. If you didn't get them right, then we can talk about it at school. Okay, so number 8, the answer to that one is a negative 1/2. For number 9, the answer is a negative 1 and 1/12. And then for number 10, the answer is 1.7. And that's a positive 1.7. Okay? If you didn't do good, you can try them again, or you can talk to me and we will figure them out at class. Let's work on this modeling real life problem. It says the table shows the annual profits in millions of dollars, and that's important that it's in millions of dollars, of an online gaming company from 2013 to 2017. All the positives are gains and the negatives are losses, and we want to see which one, A, B, C, or D, best represents their gains or their losses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in red, I'm going to add all the losses up. So it's a negative 1.7 plus negative 4.75. So I'm going to get a negative. They're both negatives, so I'm just going to add the absolute values of those. 1.7 plus 4.75. I line all that up. Gets me 5. That's 4. My decimal drops down. Decimal. And then I add that up to be 6. So my overall loss of those 2 years is $6.45 million, or $6,450,000 I lost. But I did make some gains, and we'll go in blue, and these 3 years are the gains. Let's add all those up. 1.7, 0.8, and 3.2. So 2017, we made 3.2 million, which is great. Okay, when I add these up, that's 1517. Carry my 1, my decimal drops down, and then I have 5. 5.7 million. So I lost 6.45 million in 2 of the years, and in 3 of the years, I gained 5.7 million. And when I put those 2 together, it'll tell me which one of these, A, B, C, or D, is correct. Well, I know that the negative number, this one, has a bigger absolute value than this one. So in the end, it's going to be negative. So we had a loss. So I can kind of cross out the gains. And now I just have to figure out, I have to take the smaller one from the bigger one, and that will give me the size of the loss. So I take 6.45, which has a bigger absolute value. And I'm going to take that away from, or take 5.7 away from that. And we'll see what our loss was. 5 minus 0 is 5. 4 minus 7, I need to take 1 from here. And that becomes 7. And that becomes 0.75. So my loss was 0.75 million, which is $750,000. So it's not just 75,000. It would be a loss of $750,000. All right, for this problem-solving self-assessment, I invite you to try number 12 and number 13. Give it a try, see what you can do, and I'll give you the answers in class tomorrow, and we can go over it if you have any questions.